Hello and welcome. My name is Elise. Thanks for joining me here on my YouTube channel. Today I have a quick and clean and simple card for Father's Day. I am starting out with a piece of vellum paper and some alcohol inks. I am not an alcohol ink expert, but I really like the way that they look. I decided it'd be a fun time to play with some alcohol inks. So I'm just starting out using 4 colors. The colors are all listed in the description box below, and some blending solution and just zapping it with my heat tool. Now I will say I should have stopped here, but I can't leave well enough alone. So I kept on going and kept on playing. Today's card is globe themed. It's using a set from Concord and Ninth. And so I'm using blues and greens and those kinds of colors just to get that effect. Another quick zap with my heat tool, and this time I leave it alone. So now moving on to building the card. I wasn't quite sure exactly how I wanted this card to line up. You can see that's the stamp set that I'm using there, the Concord and Ninth Globe Greetings, and I also use the coordinating die set. So I decide that I want the sentiment, World's Best Dad, to be on the globe and not on the card. So I just take my die snips, cut out the circle for the globe, and then this is a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle that I'm using so that I will have a smaller base that I'm working with, and I run that through my die cutting machine. I'll also say for all of these steps, I've done this twice. I am making a Father's Day card both for my dad and for my future father-in-law. I needed to make 2, so I've done all these things twice, but I only show you me doing them once. Sometimes you'll see I've got 2 cards. So I am just lining up that globe stand and using some Misty creative corners to help me make sure that everything is lined up and centered just exactly the way that I want it. These little corners are super handy. I just got them recently, and I'm wondering how I've ever lined up anything straight without them. So if you struggle with that and you have a Misty or another type of stamp platform, it's hard to say, stamp platform, then maybe think about getting some of these creative corners. I'm using Gina K in the Navy ink. It's my favorite dark navy ink pad, and using that to make this base. I thought it'd be nice to use a navy color instead of black, and kind of tie the card together. I also used Gina K in the Navy cardstock on this, and if you don't know, the Gina K inks and cardstocks align really, really nicely. So the color is exactly the same. So now I've got this vellum panel that I've got all my alcohol inks on, and I'm just trying to pick a spot where there's a good amount of color variation and where I like it. To be fair, I could have let this sit a little bit longer. They might have been still a smidge wet, and I actually, I think I edited it out, but I actually ended up with 3 of these because the first one I stamped on the side with the alcohol ink and really struggled with it being nasty and sticky. So all of these are stamped. The sentiment is stamped on the back of that panel. I'm using Ranger Archival Black, again, just because I was using alcohol inks and vellum. I feel like this is a real trusty black ink that really will stick to anything. So using that ink and stamping it twice to make sure I have a good impression of that World's Best Dad sentiment. And then that is what my globe will end up looking like. There are stamps in that set that will make it look like a globe. But I kind of like the subtle look. So just trying to get this aligned on how I want it. and just deciding how I want those placed. So a little backstory. Actually, I have a weird thing. I really like globes and maps. I was a geography minor in college, and my dad is actually a geographer by trade. That's what he does for a living, a combination of geography and demographics. And so when I saw this stamp set and saw that it had a globe and it was a Father's Day, I thought it was perfect. So, I could have probably made one that was a little bit more personalized for my future father-in-law, but I know that my dad will really, really like and appreciate this card. So I am just using some dot runner to adhere these little globes down. I stuck that one down in a place I wasn't super pleased with. And I go back and I add a little bit more glue. These are vellum, so you can kind of see through if you look really, really closely that there's adhesive behind them. I didn't really want to mess with trying to add glue where there was dark on the circle where the alcohol ink was. That's just way too complicated, and sometimes it's just easier to not do complicated. I've got some schmutz because, again, I should have let these panels dry a little bit longer. So I'm just taking the Tombow sand eraser and sanding away the little bits of schmutz and sticky alcohol ink. I also think it's potentially sticky because I heat set it with my heat gun. Like I said, not an expert at the alcohol inks, just think that they're cool and make for interesting backgrounds. So now I've got these focal panels and I just need to turn them into cards. So this is that Gina K in the navy cardstock. So I am just going to cut this in half and score it at 4 1/4 to make standard A2 size card bases. Now, when I write my message on the inside, I'll just write it in a white gel pen because obviously this cardstock, you can see it on camera. It's almost black. It's very, very dark navy. So if you use a white gel pen, you won't need to, that'll eliminate the issue of using like a black pen on nearly black cardstock. Or you could just adhere a white panel to the inside of the card as well if you don't have a white gel pen. So now I am taking out my trusty jumbo foam roll and just putting a bunch of foam tape onto the back of both of these panels to make sure that they're super secure. These have to go into the mail, so I want to make sure that they won't get crushed in the mail. So just taking off all of that backing and centering them onto the card base. I really like that these are clean and simple and masculine looking. I think great Father's Day cards, but I know I'm going to use this stamp set again many, many times for other things. I'm excited to use it again. It's really cute sentiments for welcome baby and things like that. So there's a lot that you can do with this set, but these are my Father's Day cards for this year. Thank you so much for joining me. Please, I would love it if you could subscribe and leave me a comment down below and let me know what your Father's Day cards are looking like.